All right, guys, so we're going to start working with our profile state. We're going to create a profile reducer. We're going to create our dashboard and all that. But before we get into that, since we're going to be dealing with so many forms, with so many inputs, I want to create separate components for some of our input groups or our text field groups. And what I mean by that is if you look in our login component, let's go down to an input. So this right here, this entire thing from div class form group, I want to make this a component that we can pass properties into. And some of those properties will be the name, the type, the placeholder, the on-change event, the value, all this stuff. I want to create a component to deal with inputs instead of having to make it look like this. It'll look much nicer and much neater and more encapsulated. So let's create inside components a new folder called common. Okay, whenever I create like a form input type of component, I like to put it inside common. So we'll create a new file. Let's call it TextFieldGroup, okay, .js. And we're actually going to make this a functional based component, okay, but we're going to cut the export default and let's give it a variable name of TextFieldGroup. And we're going to say equals that, and then down here we'll export default text field group. All right, let me just go back to my other terminal. I'm still running the server. I'm just going to make this smaller. All right, now this text field group is going to have a lot of different properties. I just said some of the properties that it's going to take. And when you're using a functional based component and you're going to accept properties, you want to put those in here. So we're going to pass in some curly braces and then all the properties we want. So name, placeholder, value, label will be one of them, error, okay, because it's going to take in the errors, info, which will be like the text underneath if we want any, type, on change, and let's say disabled. All right, so those are the possible properties. We're also going to bring in here class names. So class names from class names, and then let's also bring in prop types. And that should be all we need to bring in. All right, now as for the return, let's see, so it's going to be, actually I can probably just copy one of these. Let's grab this whole div with the class of form group in the login component, and then we're going to just replace these divs here with that, okay, and then we're going to change up some things. So like type equals email, we're going to change this to be whatever the type property is that's passed in. Let's see, placeholder, we're going to replace that with the placeholder prop. Class names, now this will be the same. We're going to keep these, all that. This is going to be, however, whatever's passed in as the error. Okay, so we're going to replace this with just error. And the name, we're going to replace that with name. We have on change, that'll be just the on change property. The value is going to be the value property, like that. And then let's also do disabled, which will be whatever is in the disabled property. All right, now for this part here, we have errors.email. We want this to be whatever's passed in as the error. Okay, same thing right here. And then we're also going to have some fields will have some info underneath the field. So what I'll do is put in here, let's say info, and then it's going to be in a small tag with the class name of form text and text muted, which will make it a lighter color. So text muted and whatever the info is will be right here, like that. All right, so now we need to add our prop types. So we're going to go underneath here, and we're going to say text field group dot prop types, and let's say name. So prop types, that should be a capital P. So prop types, it's going to be a string, and it is required. Whoops, why is it is required? Let's see. So I'm just going to kind of copy this down. So this one here will be placeholder. That's also going to be a string, and it's not going to be required. Next one will be the value. That is required. Next is the info. That is not required. Then we have the error. Error is not required. And let's see, type is required. On change will be a function, not a string, so we want to change this to func is required. And then disabled, prop types disabled will be a string, and it will not be required. All right, and then as far as default props, we can say text field group dot default props. So basically, if we don't pass it in, what will the default be? And all I'm going to do is type the type I want to be text by default. Okay, anything else will just be false or null if it's not passed in. And then I think that should do it as far as this text field group. So let's save this. And then what we're going to want to do is wherever we want to put a form group with an input field, we want to add that here. So let's start with the login form. And we're going to go, let's see, we're going to go to the top here. And let's bring in text field group from /common/text field group, and then we'll go down to the input, the first input here, or I should say the first div with the class of form group. That's really what we're replacing. And we're going to what I'll do is just show you, I'm going to go right above it. I'll delete it after, but I want to just show you what we're doing here. So we're going to say text field group. Okay, so we're using the text field group component, and it's going to take a bunch of props, a bunch of properties. It's going to have a placeholder, which will be whatever we have for it here, email address. Okay, it's going to take in a name. I'll just type it in, name of email. Whoops, we don't want commas here. What am I doing? So name, email, type is going to be email. We want the value to be this dot state dot email. We want the on change to be this dot on change. So just the same exact stuff as it has below. Error will be errors dot email. Okay, so this looks a little cleaner than this. All right, so now what we can do is just get rid of this whole form group like that, and then let's do the same thing for the password. So I'm just going to copy this, and we'll go ahead and paste this in here, and then we just want whatever is down here. So placeholder. This way we don't have to do like the whole class name thing. We don't have to do this whole thing for every single input. Okay, it's going to save us. It's going to save us a lot of time, even though it's taking extra time now to do this. But once we have it in place, whenever we have a text field or a text field group, we can just add this. So let's change this to password. type is going to be password. This dot on change, that's fine. Errors dot password. And that should be it. So now we can get rid of this. All right. And that looks much cleaner, and it should work the same exact way. So let's give it a shot. We'll save. And let's make sure our errors and stuff show up correctly. Let's see. Prop types is not defined. Looks like we messed something up here with the prop types. Import prop types. That's because this should actually be an uppercase. Okay, so let's log out. Let's go to the login and let's submit with nothing. Okay, so we can see that the errors are still working and all that. If we log in, that should still work. Yep, so that works fine. And I'll log back out. All right, cool. So now we have our text field group. Now let's replace the registration fields. So I'm going to copy one of these. Go to our register form. Let's bring that component in. Okay, so now we can go down to our first input, which is this here. This is the name. So let's replace the whole form group. I'm going to paste this in. We're going to change this to name. Type is going to be... Now, actually, with the text fields, we don't even have to do type equals text. We don't have to pass it in because remember the default prop for type was text. So we actually don't need to add it if it's a text field. Let's see. So value will be state.name. On change, that's good. Errors.name. And there we go. So if I were to save that and we go to our register, you can see that it's just the name field, and same, the errors work, everything works good. So now we just want to do this for the rest. So I'll go ahead and copy this. Let's do it for, what is this, email. So I'm going to replace, and you see how this one has this info. This is where the info comes in. So we're going to want to put that in as an info prop. But I'm going to just replace this. And we're going to say email. Since I want it to be an email type, we do have to add that. Okay, value on change errors.email. And then here we also want to add info, which is just going to be the string. This site uses Gravatar, so if you want a profile image, use a Gravatar email. All right, good. So next one is the password. So we'll replace the form group. Password. This has to have a type of password as well. Okay, the state on change error will be errors.password. All right, then we have the confirm password, or password 2. So I'm actually going to copy this and replace this. And this will be, let's say, confirm password for the placeholder. Name will be password 2. Type will be password. Value will be this .state.password 2. Errors will be errors.password 2. All right, just make sure like the errors and everything works. Good. And we can go ahead and just try to register a new user. It should work, but we'll try it anyways. We'll just say Brad at, actually I'll use my, let's see, password, and submit. We should go to the login, and now if we try to log in as Tech Guy Info, and there we go. And you can see my little gravatar up here as well. All right, good. So now that we got that out of the way, we will be creating some other field-based components as well. We only needed the input group for now because it's all we've been dealing with. We will have one for a select and a text area, but I'm not going to get into that right now. In the next video, I want to start to work on our profile state. So we're going to have to create a profile reducer, and we'll also have a profile actions file, and we want to start to work on our dashboard. All right, so I'll see you in the next video.